In the 18th century, Swedish apothecary Wilhelm Scheele developed a keen interest in chemistry. He mixed all kinds of things together to see what would happen. In one of his classic experiments, he took what we call fool's gold, iron pyrites, which is iron sulfide, and he added sulphuric acid to that. I'm not going to do that. Why not? Because when you do that, a chemical called hydrogen sulfide is released as a gas, and that is highly toxic. So the only way I can do that is like this. I can show you hydrogen sulfide, a sulfur atom joined to two atoms of hydrogen. What is interesting about that is that it is very similar to good old H2O water. The only distinction is the sulfur atom instead of the hydrogen atom. But what a difference that makes. That sulfur atom interacts with proteins in the body and makes this molecule extremely toxic. Well, luckily for Scheele, this has a very, very penetrating odor. So he got out of the lab very quickly before he succumbed to the toxicity of the hydrogen sulfide. Incidentally, Scheele also discovered hydrogen cyanide. And that, of course, is the classic toxic gas that was used in the gas chambers. And believe it or not, hydrogen sulfide is actually more toxic than hydrogen cyanide. It's just that it has such a disturbing, penetrating smell that people get out of there as soon as they smell it. A few years before Scheele's classic experiment, Italian physician Bernardo Ramazzini wrote a book which is a classic. It is the prototype of all books dealing with occupational disease. It was called Diseases of Workers, and in it he described how workers in the sewer system suffered eye problems, eye irritation, respiratory problems, and how coins in their pockets that were made of copper or silver turned black. He didn't know what was involved, but he suggested that some vapor was coming out of sewage that caused that problem. And of course, it turned out to be the case. Scheele didn't know that he had made hydrogen sulfide. He knew that he had made a very fetid, odorous substance. It was a French chemist Berthollet who identified the gas as hydrogen sulfide, and another Frenchman by the name of Baron Dupuytren discovered that this was the gas released in sewage. Now, interestingly enough, the French government in the 1770s struck a commission to study the problems of sewers because so many workers were succumbing to what they called sewer gas. Interestingly enough, Victor Hugo wrote his classic work Les Miserables a few years before that commission came to the conclusion that hydrogen sulfide was toxic. Because if you remember, having read the book or having watched the movie or having had the luck to see one of the marvelous performances of the musical Les Miserables, you'll know that Jean Valjean had a lot of experience in the sewers because when he was rescuing Marius, he had to do it by trudging through the muck of the French sewers, and he was not overtaken by hydrogen sulfide gas because Victor Hugo, of course, didn't know about it at that time. So I can't make any hydrogen sulfide here, but you've all experienced it. You've smelled it because it is the odor of rotten eggs. And you probably have smelled it in another context too, because we also produce hydrogen sulfide. Bacteria in our gut feast upon the food that we've eaten and produce hydrogen sulfide gas. Now, most of the gas that we produce is actually methane, but that doesn't have a smell. So when you're thinking of cows out there in the wild, all the gas that they are producing, the methane is the problem. That is the greenhouse gas that we refer to. Hydrogen sulfide is produced in small amounts, but you can smell it from afar because it's such a penetrating odor. Actually, I'm not quite prepared to do that demonstration for you here right now.